NBA 2K Mobile, guys. Definitely check that out, man. You know, as Knicks fans, we have very limited great moments, but we know all of our great moments, man. From the 94 finals, the 99 Cinderella run, Linsanity, Melo, Brunson taking the team to the second round. Well, in NBA 2K Mobile, you have the opportunity to create your own memories, man. It's a great game. If you guys haven't checked it out, go into your app store, whether you're Android or Apple, and download NBA 2K Mobile. There's a lot of great features in this game. One of them is the tournament mode. And one of the biggest features of NBA 2K Mobile is that they reward you for everything with player cards. And once you get the player cards, you can essentially create your own fantasy team. So when I opened up the app, the first 5 player cards I got was obviously Jason Tatum. He's the cover athlete. I got DeJounte Murray. I got Karis LeVert, Collins, and I got Nurkic. So it's a decent team, but as you go up, as you level up in NBA 2K Mobile, when you win games, when you accomplish different objectives, finish different drills, you'll get your coins, you'll get your points, so you can level up and get more player cards. You can get NBA legends, Bird, Jordan, Magic, so on and so forth, and create your own fantasy team to create your own memories with, man. So it's a great game. Definitely check it out. Very sleek interface. The graphics are on point. And a lot of you guys are on your phones 24/7 anyway, so you might as well tap in to the best basketball franchise, and that is NBA 2K Mobile. Download NBA 2K Mobile for free on the App Store or Google Play, and use my promo code Tatum2K Mobile. That's Tatum2K Mobile to redeem an exclusive Jason Tatum Pearl tier card. All right, here we go. Salute to Knicks Nation on another Friday. This is episode 2 of Fan Fridays, the show where you, our loyal Fanchise Channel members, submit your questions and we give you our answers, man. CP the Fanchise, Alex Rotaros here on the ones and twos. All right, Al, our first question comes from our girl Cynthia. Shout out to Cynthia, man. Her question is, do you think Thibs will be watching how Steve Kerr uses Jalen Brunson in the FIBA Basketball World Cup and implements what he sees with the Knicks? I know the USA team is different, but Thibs should also observe how Kerr game plans and makes on-the-fly adjustments, you know, like a real coach of a team. Do you think Thibs will learn new schemes/ideas and implement them this fall? Your thoughts?
I'm going to say, I hope, but probably not. I think what we've seen for the last 3 seasons is going to be tried and true for this upcoming season, where it still will be isolation heavy. We saw that in year 1 with Julius Randle. He was the one that did most of the work, even though you had Peyton bringing up the ball when he was in the starting unit, or you had Derrick Rose being that, you know, lead guard for the second unit. I think what Thibs likes is to have 2-3 players that he can rely on to generate offense. And I just see Brunson and Randle being the same thing, and then quickly and RJ being the same for the second unit. I think it'll be tough to see Thibs shifting away from that, just because his entire career, that's kind of how he's relied on all of his top players. You can go back to Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose ran that offense out in Chicago, right? When you think about what he did out in Minnesota, he was looking for those answers. That's why he brought in Jimmy Butler, right? Because he knew that Jimmy Butler can handle that type of workload. Even though Karl Anthony Towns was there as well, he really made Jimmy Butler that guy. And then with the Knicks, Randle, with his first season here, it was Randle. Then he tried to get the same out of Kemba Walker and Randle, but now it's Brunson and Randle. So I don't expect much to change with Tom Thibodeau and his coaching style. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect. You can't expect a Zebra to change his stripes, especially this deep into his coaching career with Coach of the Year awards under his belt. Couple things in terms of the scheme. No, I wouldn't expect them to turn into the Golden State Warriors or the Spurs or the Nuggets. This is what it is. It's an isolation-heavy offense. It is a read-and-react offense. But I also feel like a lot of times when we think about scheme, you also have to think about the players that play in said scheme. Like, it's no coincidence that when Jalen Brunson was added to a Julius Randle, that the offense was still going to be one of the best, because you had 2 of the best isolation scorers in the NBA. And so despite that, the fact that the offense has its warts, it can still be effective if your players are. It's as effective as your players are. And with the Warriors, look, there's no surprise that in a Steve Kerr offense that is high pace, it relies on a lot of player movement and off-ball movement and high IQ basketball. When you have Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, and Draymond Green, who is a basketball savant running your offense, things look a lot better, right? I mean, just ask the San Antonio Spurs when they had Parker and Ginobili running alongside Duncan. So your personnel certainly matters. Although I would like to see this Knicks offense emphasize more ball movement and player movement. We'll see how far it goes under Thibs. And then in terms of in-game adjustments, I always feel like it's a tricky thing. Like, you know, Stan Van Gundy had an interesting quote on that just a couple of years ago when he talked about the fact that, you know, a lot of times fans don't see the adjustments that coaches make. And a lot of times we rate adjustments based on wins and losses. Right? On the wins, you don't really talk about what the coach how the coach adjusted to win. But on the losses, a lot of times you say, well, he didn't adjust. But, you know, I think it's a little bit of both. You have coaches who stick to their game plan. I think Thibs is a guy who sticks to his game plan, like a Doc Rivers, like a Mike Budenholzer, like like a Mike D'Antoni. Those guys, they stick to the playbook. Our strategy's our strategy, execute it, and you let the chips fall where they may. I think that's where Thibs is. He's not a Ty Lue. He's not an Eric Spoelstra. He's not a Steve Kerr. And so I don't think he's ever going to be those guys, although obviously having that element in your bag is helpful. Additionally, just like the scheme, I also think making those adjustments relies on having players that can execute on the fly. And are the Knicks there yet? Well, with Brunson, it seems like they're getting there. With Hart, with DiVincenzo, I think Quickly's one of those high IQ guys. So let's see. Maybe with the improvement in your personnel, are you able to see more adjustments now because you have more players that can execute on the fly and make high-level decisions? I think it's yet to be determined. But, you know, Thibs won't be Steve Kerr anytime soon, man.
And to finish up on your point with, like, adjustments, I think what people are seeing is over the last course of the 3 seasons under Tom Thibodeau is that beginning of the second half, it's the same rotations. For the most part, it would be a close game where the Knicks were working their way back, especially the first 2 seasons, right? And then you just kind of see that offense go to a grinding halt. And sometimes even the defense takes a step back too, right? We see lack of ball movement. We see lack of offensive creativity. It becomes even more isolation heavy. I mean, hell, think about how many times after the first half where you have some good ball movement, third quarter comes along, and then it's just strictly isolation heavy between Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. So you'd hope that another year, you know, when you have the continuity that the Knicks have right now, you hope that Tom Thibodeau can add some new wrinkles, whether that be defensively or offensively. But over the past 3 seasons, I can understand why fans, and I'm in that same camp too, where I don't see the adjustments, the major adjustments, because sometimes it could be that third quarter of doom. So hopefully Tom Thibodeau can make that type of in-game adjustment that we can see that's a little bit more visible, right? And maybe not as subtle. And just to finish off, CP, on the isolation numbers, here's the last 3 seasons under Tom Thibodeau as the New York Knicks as a total. First year under Tom Thibodeau, where they made the playoffs, they were 4th in isolation as a team. Second year under Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks were 8th in isolation as a team. This past season, the Knicks were 4th in isolation yet again. So to finish off on the isolation question, I don't see the Knicks changing too differently from being so ISO heavy. All right, CP. Question number 2 from Joseph Osorda 2422. My question is, what do you think is our total wins? I believe we can get a 50 a 50 burger. And what would you consider a successful season next year? So CP, do you think the Knicks can get 50 or more wins? And what do you consider a successful season for the 2023-2024 season?
Shout out to Joseph Osordo. I think the Knicks can get the 50 burger, and I predict that they will. Shout out to JD. We're getting the grill heated up. Now, there's a lot of question marks still. Who's going to play the backup 4? How did the Knicks handle that rotation? They did get a little bit less athletic, although they've stacked up in the guard rotation. How does the guard rotation pan out? How do those players in that rotation handle? Some players are going to get less minutes. How do they handle that? who's going to be in the closing lineups. I think those are some of the big question marks facing this team, but I'm also going to bank on another year of chemistry, another year with Jalen Brunson at the helm with Julius Randle as his running mate, with RJ Barrett playing a tertiary role. I believe these guys can string off a 50-win season, and for me, a successful season is going to be Eastern Conference Finals. I think they have it. We talked several times on many shows on this platform about there's a lot of question marks in the East. How does Miami going to look? How is Phil? I believe Philadelphia is going to come back to the pack because it seems like James Harden has no intentions of ever playing for the Philadelphia 76ers. How does Boston look without Marcus Smart, with a Kristaps Porzingis whose durability has been in question? Look, the Knicks have their question marks, but there's a lot of teams in the East with question marks as well. But I believe that the Knicks can get that 50-piece. Eastern Conference Finals is my bar for success.
CP jumping out the window early with not only the 50 burger, but he said Eastern Conference Finals. Look at that. For me, I agree. I agree that they can get the 50 wins. I think they should be able to. Well, last year before they got Josh Hart, they were on a 53-game win pace. After they get Josh Hart, they go on a 9-game winning streak. They could have easily gotten 50 wins, depending on injury, between Brunson and Julius Randle. This team has it in them. And TP, you noted the change in the East, whether it's Boston, you can even talk about the lesser teams, Chicago, Atlanta, right? Miami's probably not going to be that good either. So unless they get Dame, that's a whole different situation. But with the East looking different, Knicks still maintaining that continuity that we talked about earlier in question 1, the Knicks should be able to get over 50 wins because they were on that pace last season. Now, what is success? For me, I got to see at least, I'm not going to say Eastern Conference Finals just because the Bucks are still there. And if they get matched up with the Bucks, that's going to be tough. So I need to see who the matchup is. Okay. Yeah. Not worried about the Cavs, not worried about Boston, not worried about Philly. But if they do get Milwaukee, that's kind of hard for me to see them getting to that Eastern Conference Final. But what I will say is that they have to get back to the second round. They got to make it a 7-game series with whoever they face. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Got to be a 7-game series. Got to be a close one. And look, I got to see better adjustments from Tom Thibodeau too, okay? We got to see more ball movement from the Knicks offense in the postseason. It's none of this isolation stuff. I know we just answered that. It's probably going to be more isolation heavy, but we have to see some level of in-game adjustments, adaptability from Tom Thibodeau and this New York Knicks team in the second round because, look, that's what caused them to get knocked out. They stuck, even though Thibs made that change to Josh Hart being in the starting rotation and Grimes coming off the bench, that was not the adjustment that they needed, and he took too long to make that adjustment to flip it right back. So I need to see a second round appearance, go 7, go the distance, and I need to see better offense and a little bit more in-game adjustments.
All right, Al, this last question comes from NatTNYC718, and their question is, what is your favorite Knick moment of all time?
This is tough. I always say that's the LJ 4-point play because that's really, I was young, I saw it. That's what really sparked my Knicks fandom because I was at a young age. But I'm going to go different, man. I'm going to go different this time. I'm going to choose Jeremy Lin, man. Linsanity. I'm going to go with Linsanity.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Linsanity. I'm going to change it up a little bit. That game in Toronto where he hits the game winner buzzer beater.
Valentine's Day massacre
was, oh my goodness, man. Yeah. That game was different. You think about it, the Knicks were just competing. You're thinking about, is this really, do we really have the point guard of the future? Obviously we didn't then, but just the high that you're coming off of a undrafted guy. Where did he come from? Making this Cinderella story in the Mecca, and then you drill a game-winning 3 in Toronto. Let's go, baby. That's one of my top 5 moments. So I'm going to go with the Jeremy Lin 3-point play. What about you, CP?
I'm going to go with the Knicks clinching the 99 Eastern Conference Finals to make it to the finals. I'm big on the unscripted storylines in sports and those storylines that unfold. And even though the 94 team was such a special team, obviously so many Warriors on that team, the Knicks were building up to being one of the best teams in the league. And it had not been for a guy named Michael Jeffrey Jordan, they might have had rings before that, from 92 to 93 through basically through the late 90s. I mean, the Knicks were one of the best teams in the league. So, you know, to get to the finals in 94, it was special, of course, but they beat the Bulls without Jordan. They had trouble putting them away. Yes, they got through the Pacers, and then they lose to the Rockets after going up 3-2. That was definitely devastating. In 99, no one expected the Knicks to get there. And there was so much turmoil. There were so many storylines. They traded a fan favorite in John Starks for Latrell Sprewell, who was coming off a controversy. He just choked out his coach. I was thinking, is he gonna choke out Van Gundy? He's mad little. Like, what's gonna happen when Latrell Sprewell gets here? He ends up, despite a rocky season, he ends up winning the hearts of the fans by the end of it. Then you have Van Gundy himself, who thought he was going to be fired several times during the course of that season because they were underperforming. Ernie Grunfeld wanted him out of there. Dave Checketts met with Phil Jackson in hopes of getting him to take over the team. So there was so much influx from the top to the coaching staff. And then you have your magical run, the Houston buzzer beater against Miami, being the first 8 seed to beat the 1 seed. Then they run through the Hawks, sweep the Hawks 4-0. And unfortunately, they would lose Ewing in the conference finals against the Pacers to the Achilles injury. They would ultimately, technically, lose LJ because he suffered a, series changer, game-changing knee injury in that series. Even though with the two of them, I still don't think they're beating the Spurs. I think they make it much more competitive. But overall, the LJ 4-point play, like you said, the LJ 4-point play in that series. I mean, there were so many crazy moments of that Cinderella season. I got to put that at the top of my list, man. My favorite moment of all time is that 99 Knicks run. All right, Al, that does it for this episode of Fan Friday. Salute to everybody that submitted a question. And if you at home want to submit a question, all you got to do is join the loyal Fanchise Channel members. It's only $4.99 a month. That's less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Support your boys at KnicksFanTV. See you guys next week. CP Alex, we out of here, man. Peace.